Chapter 3 of Emma Ballard and the Crystal Book, Another Hole. The ponies pranced along the cobblestone path, their hooves mimicking the sounds of coconut shells being banged together. Up ahead lay the Nature Lodge, and Grandpa Robert had it built for Gabe's parents. It stood tall and sturdy next to their state-of-the-art animal rescue center. Robert and Grandmother Allura resided in the ancient but cozy cob cottage that stood between the manor and the lodge. Emma gave Primbo a squeeze of her heel to pick up his pace. "Look, there's Grandpa with the osprey." Grandpa Robert, tall and trim, with a well-tanned, kind face, greeted them. Emma rode up to him, and he planted a kiss on her cheek, gazed into her eyes, and pushed her hair behind her left ear. Emma cocked her head to one side. "What? Why are you looking at me that way?" "It's just you look so much like Allura when she was your age." Emma pulled her hair back over her earlobe. "Bet she didn't have this birthmark." "That is your special signature mark. My mother, Maria, had the very same heart shape on the same ear. You don't always have to hide yours." "Mom was proud of hers, and she always let it show," Robert assured her. "Yeah, I wish I had one. What makes you so special?" Gabe asked. "But you do have one on your back." "A red crescent moon," Emma reminded him. Gabe shrugged. "Why have one if no one sees it?" "My father, Cullen, had one there too," Robert said. Everyone would tease him about it during swim class, but he didn't care. He just said it was his special mark of wisdom. "Well, that's what I'll say then. I'll have swim class in the fall." Emma was curious. "How did you know Grandmother at my age?" "We met it first year of sea camp. Let's get this release underway now." Emma knew she would get no more out of him as he slid a thick leather gauntlet over Gabe's outstretched arm. With his own hand gloved, he coaxed the osprey onto it. "Easy, boy. It's time for you to go. Gabe, hold your arm out a little more. Steady." The black and white raptor stepped over, sinking its sharp, hooked claws into the thick leather. The powerful grip against his arm reminded him that if he didn't have on his gauntlet, those talons would dig through his flesh right into his bones. The osprey stared at him with keen, piercing gold eyes, swaying his head back and forth from side to side. "You know the release word?" Robert asked. Gabe nodded. He had this down. "Take him to the lighthouse point, close to where he was found," Robert instructed. "He will stay on your arm till you give the release command." Gabe sat tall. The muscles in his chest tightened under the raptor's weight. This would definitely test his strength. And reining Scout with one hand, Gabe turned with Emma simultaneously, and the two cousins walked their mounts side by side. Emma glanced back at Robert waving, and Merlin landed on his gloved arm. Slowly tucking her hair behind her ears, she sat a bit straighter. "I wonder what kind of hawk Merlin is." "A white hawk, silly, and a very smart one," Gabe replied. "I bet the first thing this one will do is hunt for fresh fish." Emma admired the magnificent bird, wishing she held it. "You know they have a special toe, more like an owl than a raptor. It allows them to turn their fish aerodynamically head first in flight." "Nope, I didn't know that. That's way cool," Gabe said. "I love to see them over at the beach soaking the fish goo off their feet after they eat. Pretty smart bird. Bird brain takes on a whole new meaning," Emma chuckled at her witty self. Gabe's eyebrows furrowed, straining to remember. "Grandpa says we almost lost raptors to a chemical spray used on crops. The horrible stuff made that bird's eggs so fragile they crushed in the nest." Emma frowned at the thought. "Oh, how awful! Poor babies! What a way to die! I'm glad we don't use any poisons on our island." The clip-clopping sounds inside the covered bridge amplified an echo on the ancient wood. The only access to Ballard Island was through the bridge on foot, or by horse, or by bicycle. The ponies pranced across the brick parking lot of the Ballard garage, which housed the family's collection of vintage cars. Ben and Giles lived in the attached cob cottage. The ancient art of cob construction allowed all the structures to be molded with whimsical styled doors and windows and roofs and walls. Ben watered the festive flowers that overflowed their many clay pots, and the always jovial Giles waved to them from the porch. He puffed on his morning meerschaum pipe, tinging the air with a sweet smell of vanilla. He blew a few smoke animals from pursed lips that rose up into the morning sky. "Fine bird there." Gabe held his arm a bit higher, proudly sporting the raptor. Giles puffed out a smoke of hawk in flight. "Be careful," he called out in a sharp tone. "We will," they replied in unison, and it would be a leisure ride to the lighthouse point. The ponies enjoyed nibbling at the tall grasses along the way, and the osprey began chirping, recognizing his hunting grounds. Lightly flapping anxious black wings, he was ready to go. "Easy now," Gabe said. "My arm is getting tired. We are close enough." "Well, say the word," Emma demanded impatiently. "I want to see him fly." Gabe slowly lowered his arm, and then with a quick lift upward, he gave the command, "Off!" And in one fell swoop, the raptor spread his magnificent wings, and the rush of air fanned Gabe's face. The bird released its grip and made flight. His chirping of gratitude grew fainter and faded away until he disappeared into a speck in the distance. Emma screamed, "Freedom!" Gabe slid the hot gauntlet from his arm. "That's a heavy raptor." Tucking the glove into his belt, he gave his arm a shake. "Wow, it's great to see him fly off. So glad his leg healed from the fishing line entanglement. Hey, how about a race home? Bet we can beat you." Before Emma could answer, he turned scout on a dime, gave a swift kick, and took off. Emma shook her head and turned Primbo with her heels against his side. "I would have said no, and now you have a head start. Not fair, but I bet we can beat you anyway," she said under her breath. They raced down the hill towards the garage. "Whoa there, not so fast," demanded Giles. "Not so fast, boy." "I am winning," Gabe shouted back. Scout thundered across the covered bridge. Emma rounded the corner, still trying to catch up. "Come on, Primbo, run faster." Giles yelled out a warning. "Slow down, Emma." She ignored his plea and raced on through the covered bridge. In a split second, she reined off the path to cut the corner. This might have given her the advantage to win. She grabbed more of Primbo's mane and leaned forward, digging her heels against her pony's side. Primbo gave a burst of speed, and the sound of his breath blowing through flared nostrils grew louder. "Come on, Primbo, we can do it." Primbo gave it his all, but failed to see a fresh hole before him. He stumbled and flipped forward. Gabe threw up his arms into the air and yelled, "Woohoo! Woohoo!" keeping his head forward, knowing he was the winner. But then as he turned scout, he gasped at the sight of a heap lying on the ground. Primbo standing over it. "Emma!" he screamed, racing back. He slid off scout and knelt beside her lifeless form. Merlin swooped down with a piercing cry. "Merlin, get Grandpa, quick!" Gabe held Emma's hand and noticed that Primbo favored a front leg. "Oh, Primbo, you are hurt too. This is all my fault." What had seemed to be an eternity to Gabe, in reality just took seconds, and Robert came running with Merlin leading the way. "Grandpa, we were racing," Gabe sobbed. Robert knelt near Emma. "We mustn't move her. Merlin, get Flo and Fry and bring the crystal book." Merlin shot off towards the manor and found Fry in the garden. He circled screaming and took off to find Flo. He found her in the greenhouse and swooped through the door, screeching over her head. "What is it, Merlin?" She ran after him, and he led the way to the manor and flew straight towards the library. Fry and Flo caught up with him. He scratched furiously with his sharp talons at the door. Fry slid the door open. Merlin flew directly to the crystal book. "Oh no, children." Flo grabbed it. "Merlin." "Oh no, it's the children." Merlin led them to Robert and Gabe, kneeling beside the heap. "No, no, no, no." Flo ran faster, the book clutched tightly to her chest. Robert and Gabe stood up to give her room. Flo knelt and felt Emma's pulse. "She's alive but weak. What's happened?" Gabe, forlorn, said, "We were racing. I was ahead. Primble must have stumbled." Flo took a quick look at Gabe. "How are you?" Assured by his nod, she said, "Let me work. You tend to Primbo." Fry, Robert, and Gabe turned their attention to the injured pony. They could not keep from watching Flo over their shoulders. Merlin flew around and around the scene quietly and finally perched on a tree limb nearby. Flo placed the crystal book on her lap and pulled a twisted silver hairpin from her bun. A large ruby sparkled on the end of it. She tapped the book with it, and a keyhole appeared. She pulled out the most unusual key on a most unusual chain from around her neck. The golden chain stretched in length. She inserted the delicate key into the illuminated hole. Turning it once, the key popped out. The chain shrank back to its former size on her chest, and Flo whispered, "Page 777, please." The crystal book slowly opened itself. Flo raised it over Emma's limp body and let it go. Hovering on its own, the crystal book scanned Emma from head to toe, pulsating light green to light red, back and forth. And when it reached Emma's feet, it turned transparent once again. Flo grabbed it and read the results. Merlin tilted his head, creeping closer to his perch. On his perch. The book revealed Emma's injuries in dark purple print on the shadow of a skeleton. From top to bottom, diagnostic numbers and arrows correlated to each injury. Number 1, severe concussion. Number 2, scrape on forehead. Number 3, scrape on left elbow. 4, scrape on right shoulder. "Oh no," Flo gasped and continued. Number 5, crushed lower vertebrae and spine. Number 6, skinned knees. Number 7, fractured right ankle. She sighed, gazing at Emma, and read on silently. "The results say we can move her, Robert. I can heal all her injuries but one. The book says there is only one crystal powerful enough to heal. Number 5. One I cannot grow," revealed by the closing book. Fry spoke softly. "Primbo's leg is wrapped. It just seems to be a sprain." Robert gently picked up Emma. She groaned, but did not regain consciousness. With sure-footed steps, he made off to the manor. Flo ran on ahead to return the book. Oh no, just before her birthday. If I hadn't been consulting Pothos over her portal dreaming, he might have foreseen the fall and stopped it. No, I have to stop thinking this way. It's not my fault. Pothos could not have stopped it either. How could his tentacles hold up a running pony? The black hole is just at work here. I can feel it. Flo prepared the healing room, pushing the bed near the window and an armchair and bamboo table nearby. Hearing footsteps, she called out, "In here!" Repressing tears at the sight of lifeless Emma in Robert's arms, she had to heal what she could quickly, so Emma could not slip into the portal dream in her weakened state. This is what the black hole wanted. "You can't have her," Flo hissed. can't have her, she hissed again in a whisper. Stay tuned for Chapter 4, Flo the Healer.